Chris, yesterday, you were live, and I actually saw this happen on Twitter, and so I kind of just jumped into chat because I was like, this is unreal. Zepla got banned for 1 hour and 8 minutes from Twitch. The real cost of all this, though, right, is that she went from 240,000 down to 78, and then when I actually went to look at her page, it went back up to 120. I don't know if that's been crawling itself back up.
Again.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that it's been coming its way back, but is she back to where she was, or?
I have not checked her this morning.
Okay.
But what it looks like is happening is anytime anybody refreshes the page on Twitch or logs into Twitch for the day, it goes ahead and tosses those people on there. That does mean anybody who's never coming back to Twitch is no longer in her number.
Okay.
She's at 246 again right now.
Okay, good. That was actually one of the biggest concerns that I know that she expressed, because all of a sudden.
Yep, absolutely.
Right. Because also when we look at, when people look at, sponsorships and partnerships and all of those things, it's always interesting because on YouTube, people look at the subscriber number and YouTubers can be like, that doesn't necessarily mean a good thing or a bad thing. It just means, go ahead.
My experience as I've pursued more Twitch sponsorships and as I've done more with sponsors is what they're looking for is concurrence, and then how many people within your stream are active. They are aware of this kind of lurker concept. So they are looking at concurrence, and they are looking at how many people can click a link or how many people will make a purchase. And those are kind of the three metrics that I have seen determine what sponsorship opportunities I have. And I've been using it to run additional streams beyond my standard schedule. Because it's kind of like paid overtime, right? And so like you guys support us. And so I put out an amount of content throughout the week that is a full-time job. And then, since times have been a little tight this year, because ad revenue and things are doing weird things, there's been some great sponsors that have been fun to work with. And it's been a great excuse to make extra time to do the things I wouldn't have normally gotten to, running extremes, working on spreadsheets, all sorts of nerdy stuff. So that's been really fun. But as I've worked on that, I will say concurrence has been the single most valuable number. If Brian and I truly cared about that, we would be more disciplined about what we put on our Twitch channel. Because anytime one of us goes live late at night and plays a game that's not Final Fantasy at all, it lowers your average concurrence for the month. So we're not super disciplined on it, but I'm aware of at least what metric they're looking at.
Yeah.
But with followers, like the number itself doesn't mean anything. That's just the number of feeds you show up in the left. It's got bots in it. We know that your real number is something smaller than that. Everybody's number is something smaller than whatever number it says. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, like I talked about this on stream yesterday, like our follower number, while we would celebrate it hitting milestones because it's the number we have, it's not actually the number that makes me do what I do. It's not actually the number that helps reconvince me of pride in my work. Those numbers are how many people are hanging out. Those numbers are those moments of, hey, I've been lurking for a long time, but I just want to say I appreciate something. Those numbers are the numbers of you that I get to know every single week. And some of you are here all the time, and I get to know your struggles, and I get to know your joys, and I'm aware of what's going on in your life, and you're telling me what's going on with your dog. And like, those are the things that make streaming fun, not the number of people who've hit the follow button. That number really doesn't do anything. If a million people tomorrow watched some news article about Twitch and randomly found only our channel and all hit follow and that jumped to 1 million, it wouldn't do anything. It doesn't make us money. It doesn't help it open any doors. It doesn't lead to a more fun stream. It's just a number. So I wasn't worried about her number dropping on that case. What I was worried is, what if even one person
mm-hmm.
that likes watching Zepla, they watch a lot of other people and they're like, gosh, I'm drawing a blank on her name, and she's not in that feed on the left.
Right.
If even one person who would actively get joy in their life from watching Zepla has her removed as a follow, which Twitch does remove follows from time to time. I see people are like,
YouTube does. YouTube does for that, for the follows, the subs, but the follows, yeah.
So if even one person is a result of this, that's BS. Because the cause for her ban was that she was banned for impersonating Zepla.
Yeah.
So the whole thing
was
because she was banned for impersonating herself.
And this is something she's been fighting. And so one of the things that it's interesting when it comes to impersonation, just as kind of a thought experiment, I literally over on Ginger World had somebody being Ginger World trying to get people to do this thing. And got to go report him for impersonation. So it is existing on all platforms. But this is something that Zepla, especially with her size and her success, has been fighting against for a long time actively. And then to be caught up by this, like, to me, like, when I was like, if I was in a like, hey, let's talk about getting into content creation. Okay, at this phase, you need to be thinking about this. When you grow to this size, you need to be thinking about this. And that's really where, like, seeing this, I'm glad it got rectified, but that still probably had to be an hour and 8 minutes of real stress, because
absolute stress.
One of the things that, like, you know, I even talked about lightly in my videos, that one of the things that I feel that is the most true, because of how Twitch operates and how it locks you in from any, like, we get the ability because we actually are more than one person, but Zepla doesn't get the ability to stream to YouTube at the same time, or Facebook. What's happening right now is Ninja's doing that, and I do wonder if that will lead to a lawsuit, if that is the intention down the road, to be able to sit here and say, hey, he's actually growing faster and having a benefit, and he can afford to do something like that because of his size and the paydays he's gotten. Namely, because when you go look at his Twitch numbers, they're much, much higher. We see that when we do things like that, y'all go over and check out Twitch, and the numbers are much, much higher. And I think in that sense, that getting locked down, getting banned, getting what happened to Zepla, like, really, I hope tells you don't be reliant on any one platform, because their bots, their AI, they're going to fail you, and they'll find a reason, you know, and thank goodness she's got a community and a size that she's able to bring this to light. But the other side of it is, like, this in and of itself is like, I wouldn't ever want to sit here and be tied into one platform for my source of income. And she's had a hell of a year. We're talking the war of Ukraine. We're talking, like, this is in and of itself is just like, oh man, that sucks.
The stress of it is that she tried to go live and was banned.
Yeah.
And then saw her follower count was down. Now, the news, and I would like to keep restating this throughout this, just in case anybody misses it. She did not lose followers. She is back up to 246K right now. It was jumping up literally. When I saw her yesterday, she had 1,500 people watching her. She was at 120K after I was told she was at 80. And when I pulled up the page and then we talked about it for a bit, and I said, I wonder if it's going back up rapidly. And somebody said, it says I'm not following her. And then I just refreshed your page, and now it says I am following her. I said, okay.
Yeah.
So then people were like, oh, I'm going to refresh my page. I'm going to refresh my page. So then as people refresh their page, well, I refreshed her page. It went up by 10,000.
Yeah.
She had 1,500 people watching her. That means if none of them were following her, now they're all following her 10 times. So, like, it was rapid in how fast it came back.
That's the question. Are they backing it up? You know,
and now that's out there, and I'm going to keep stating that, because I think, like, the issue of her getting banned is bad, and is bad on its own, and is incredibly infuriating. But this whole she got purged of followers, that part actually risks us taking away from talking about the act of getting banned for impersonation, because now we're focused on this thing they took away from her when they didn't. And so then what happens is then somebody corrects that, and it makes the whole argument look like, well, do you even have all the facts? And it starts to devalue everything that really is still wrong here. Mm-hmm. It is still wrong that she got banned in the first place. It is still wrong that she had to go through that whole process of trying to go live. And she uses Streamlabs OBS, and it's like, can't connect to the channel. And she's like, what is this? And she has a screen cap of the error. It's a weird error. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't tell you a whole lot. It's not like, you're banned. It's just like, oh, it's broken. And you're like, what do you mean it's broken? And so a lot of that, and then that frustration with, like, well, what happens when you're locked into one platform? On the Ninja thing, we don't know the terms of his agreement, and so maybe he's not eligible for the same punishments as the rest of us.
Well, he is no longer a Twitch partner, so in his case, he's still streaming, and he's streaming to more people that he's been streaming to for a while over on Twitch. However, he's not able to receive, like, any kind of monetary compensation. I don't think the lawsuit necessarily comes from him. I do wonder if the lawsuit ends up looking at this and saying, hey, he's growing at a rapid pace on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Like, all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. You know, it's kind of in my mind when I looked at that, I was like, it is a rich gets richer kind of scheme. He has the flexibility and power that he does not need whatever Twitch is kind of like driving towards him. But then essentially, like, everybody else in content creation is also now at a massive disadvantage. I've been thinking a lawsuit's going to be coming against Twitch, especially because they're based in California, for a long time. And I think what they've done, where we're able to make this show happen now, because of the change that they've made. I believe that's kind of in response as a way of trying to defend an upcoming lawsuit that might not be in the public sphere, or their legal teams like, guys, you're setting yourself up because everybody else outside of Twitch, everybody else allows for this stuff. So then Twitch comes out and says, sure, you can stream wherever, just not at the same time to these platforms. And without any kind of massive exclusivity deal, I think that's going to be ends up what gets challenged to court. And I think Ninja is going to be actually the catalyst to this. But then when I factor all this back into like Zepla's ban for her fighting against impersonation, I think that also, I wonder if that will accelerate this, or at least make this more part of the common thought in content creators, and also just these communities that support us, support 14. And then as you keep going at, out and out and out, all of a sudden you start to sit here and say like, why should you be restricted to watching in one spot? Like the viewer has should have the choice of their better viewing experience. And sometimes that is on Twitch, and sometimes that might be on YouTube. And we have an advantage because there's two of us. Like, so when I start to think about in terms of like fair competition, like we talked about this in a couple of videos in the past, early on in the channel. It's like, play to your strengths. What are your unique advantages that each and every one of you have? And like Zepla has, like, I think her bubbly personality, she's a joy to watch. She's got a lot of really good insight. The thing we always bring is like, there's two of us. We can bounce ideas off of one another. We can disagree. And it's always interesting to see, like, in the comments, they're like, I'm usually with Brian, but on this one, I think Chris really kind of, I'm with Chris on that. And that, sometimes people say that in like terms of shock, like, cause they might agree with me on more things. And then occasionally it's like, yeah, that's the beauty of it. But the lesson here is, guys, if you follow Zepla, if you've ever followed Zepla, just go check to see if you're still following her. I think a lot of it was a backup.
Twitch regularly drops follows regardless.
Yeah.
Yesterday I said I wasn't following Pint, and I was like, well, that's just ridiculous. So it also is just a good reminder of, I haven't watched her in a few weeks. Well, who knows? We have people who said that, like, we have people who've hit the follow button for the first time on our channel 3-4 times. Like, people who are here every day. And then they come by and it notifies us, and it's like, oh, they followed. It's like, followed? They're like a 23-month
subscriber. Yeah.
Like, why were you unfollowing? So,
it's like, here's some money, but I do not want to know when you're live.
Here's the money. Will you stop streaming? How much do I have to pay you to shut up?
Yeah.
So it would be like, but just the whole stress of it, right? She has been taking time off because she's been dealing with all this real world stress. She's a wonderful joy to the community, and she comes back and this is what she has to deal with. And she is one of the people like Ms. Tech that has had to deal with this constant. A while back, Yoshi put a letter out on the Lodestone warning people of scammers on Twitch. And I don't think it called out anybody in particular, any particular streamers, but I can see how Zepla would read that as she is one of those, because she is one of the largest Final Fantasy XIV creators, and it happens to her often. But like, Ms. Tech has had huge issues with it, and actually she adjusted overlays on her stream so that when they steal VODs, there is an overlay that's telling you, I'm not giving away a deal, I'm not quitting 14, I'm not a scammer. And so she had to adjust the way she streamed for a long time there. Anytime you came into her stream, it was basically like, and she has a bot that's in her streams that's like, just so you know, my streams get taken for bots a lot, so please never give me any of your information. Please never log into anything. Please never click any links I post. Which then you have to wonder, as somebody who's like a partner with, I know she partners with a lot of brands, her in particular partners with like Corsair and all of that. What happens if Corsair ever wants to be like, hey, could you get everybody to check out our new website or whatever? And she's like, sorry, I actually intentionally have fostered a loving and supportive community that has a 0% click-through rate. Like by intention. Like, I'm not even an average person. They are anti-clickers. Like that's so. And then there's that added stress, and she always has to be thinking ahead of like, how will the next person impersonate me? Like, that sucks. And so make sure you guys are following Zepla. If you've never followed her before, go stop by, say hello. She's had a rough year. And for somebody that really focuses on typically the joy of the community, if typically people say like, well, I don't like Brian and Chris because one of them talks too much or whatever. Typically the complaint I hear about Zepla is people who don't actually like too much positivity. So if you're ever having a rough day and you want to just think about 14, typically the weakness is her strength. Typically what I hear people that take a break from watching Zepla is because she's too positive. And so like, I think that if you ever need that positivity, it's one of the greatest places to go find that as a source. And I've always appreciated that.
Yeah.
Not that she doesn't talk about the downtimes when it's down, not that she's never real, and she has shared an awful lot of things about her personal life.
I think that just makes us more human, but we don't need to like rehash her story. Guys, thank you so much, Chris, dropping a shout out in Twitch chat for Zepla. So that's important if you guys aren't following. Yeah, make sure that you check her out. She does really good work. I think she's a real boon for the Final Fantasy 14 community. She finally got to interview Yoshi P for the first time as a part of the Endwalker Media Tour. So there's so many good things I think happening, and hopefully, we'll talk about it like more throughout the year, just like as we look at 2020 and Endwalker, 2022 and Endwalker. There's definitely been, we've had as a community some really interesting challenges, and maybe we'll explore that as a topic in the coming weeks, because it's just an interesting time to be a Final Fantasy 14 fan.